In May of the year 2000, a young woman called Kirsty Jones embarked on a solo trip around the world. She was only 23 years old and she was full of excitement. This was an adventure of a lifetime. After recently graduating from the University of Liverpool with a degree in English and Media Studies, Kirsty left her home in Tredymun near Brecon, which is in Wales, to embark on a 2-year global adventure. How exciting would that be, honestly? Her travels would take her through Asia, Australia, and also New Zealand, where I live, before finishing in South America. But sadly, poor Kirsty, she would never make it back home alive. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kate and here on my channel I talk about true crime, mysteries and things that interest me. But it is mostly true crime. Don't forget to show your support for my channel by liking this video, subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my future videos. Thank you for being here with me. Make sure you get cozy, grab a snack. It's not a super long story, but you know, it's an excuse to have a snack. And let's dive into another true crime story. All right, so Kirsty Jones, she was absolutely thrilled to embark on her backpacking adventure. She had worked so hard to save up just enough money to fund her journey by doing odd jobs. So once she got onto the road, she was determined to make the most of her experience by seeking the cheapest accommodations possible. So she would only be sleeping there, right? So, you know, doesn't need to be a super expensive accommodation. Despite facing some obstacles along the way, Kirsty remained joyful and optimistic, soaking up every moment of her adventure with pure delight. Her adventure was a true reflection of the joy that comes from following your dreams. And Kirsty was living proof of that. She was so happy. She was having so much fun. She was visiting different countries, seeing different cultures. Like, wow, Kirsty seems to have had an amazing adventure, honestly. After 3 months of traveling, she headed 435 miles north of Bangkok to the wonderful trekking hub of Chiang Mai. While there, she explored the jungle, she rode elephants, and even met some hill tribes. So this town is such a cool place. It's the largest city in northern Thailand, and it's famous for being really beautiful. There's Buddhist temples, and it's got like a real chill vibe. Lots of tourists from all over the world flock there just to experience the unique atmosphere. It is such a beautiful place. So Kirsty decided to stay at the Ari guest house during her trip. It was really cheap. It was a super cheap option for her, just £1 per night. But unfortunately, she did not know that it wasn't the safest place for her to stay alone. The guest house, it had a bit of a bad reputation. And in the previous year, it was actually closed for 6 months because another traveler had passed away from an overdose. It can be tough to find affordable accommodations when you're traveling, especially when money is tight and, you know, she's on her own and she's traveling for a long, long time. So she had to make her money stretch. And this guest house, it was cheap, £1 a night. And it was basically somewhere she could lay her head at night because she's out doing fun activities during the day. So Kirsty, like many others, made the decision to stay there despite being young and inexperienced. She obviously didn't Google search the place. It's understandable that she needed to be mindful of her budget, and the guest house provided an option that she could afford. So Kirsty settled into her room. It was on the ground floor, and she became aware that there were some other guests. So these other guests, they were also staying at the guest house that night. There were at least 8 other guests, including the owner. So the owner is Andrew Gill and Surin Chanpuranet, who was managing the guest house while also running a massage school on the upstairs area of the building. I'm not sure how legit that school was, but yeah. Anyway, Kirsty, she was super curious about the other guests and their stories. She started hanging out with them. She thought they were, a good bunch of people to hang out with. She learned that Stuart Crichton, an Australian man, had a reputation for street fighting and was later arrested for possessing heroin and cannabis. Yeah, so they found heroin and cannabis in his room. Glenn, another guest, he described himself as an ex-Mormon and former CIA spy who had come to Thailand to recover from head injuries that he had sustained in a car accident. So we're not too sure if he was actually in the CIA, but yeah, apparently it sounded like he was telling some tall tales. Nathan Foley, he was 27. He was Australian, and he was passing through on his way to England to visit his relatives in Kent. So he was heading there for the first time, and he was super excited about the trip. So meanwhile, Stephen Trigg, a 27-year-old British backpacker, had been on the road for 4 years before arriving at the guest house and deciding to stay there for a while. Kirsty was fascinated by the diverse backgrounds and experiences that these people had experienced. Like, they were so different, and they were just as adventurous as her. So it was great. In total, there were 6 foreigners and 2 Thai men staying at the guest house that night. It was a unique and interesting group of people, all with their own stories to tell. So Kirsty had a lovely evening at the guest house where she met Nathan Foley, the Australian. So apparently he was really friendly, a super friendly man who was on his way to visit his relatives in England. They had dinner together and Kirsty enjoyed his company. I'm not sure if it was romantic or anything, but yeah, it was said that she enjoyed his company. Later, she went to her room and, she was happy. She seemed fine. She just made a new friend. She was having a good time. Then, this is when it all turns really bad. In the early hours of August 10th, Stephen Trigg was jolted awake by the sound of Kirsty's voice. It was piercing through the silence. From her room, he could hear her crying out in terror. She was saying, "Leave me alone, leave me alone, get off me, get off me." He was freaking out. The urgency and the intensity of her cries, it sent shivers down his spine. It was evident that something really bad was happening to Kirsty in that room. So Stephen, he was really concerned and he was scared for her. There is a warning, I will be talking about the R word, the death of a young woman. So yeah, that's what's coming up next. So he immediately went to the manager of the place to share his concerns about this yelling. They both decided to check in on Kirsty and make sure she was all right, but they didn't want to disturb her in case she was maybe just having a heated argument with somebody. Yeah, but see, that confuses me because they know she was by herself, so why would... Anyway, sadly, they were unaware that something more serious was actually happening. The next morning, the other guests began their day, but no one heard from Kirsty. She hadn't been seen. They all sat down for breakfast, but she didn't show up for breakfast. They usually ate their breakfasts together. No one had heard from her. They didn't know what was going on. So later that afternoon, a maid had entered Kirsty's room to do the usual cleaning and, giving towels and whatnot, and discovered a scene that was so horrific that it left everyone shaken to the core. The details of the tragedy were not immediately clear, and the authorities were notified. The investigation into Kirsty's fate began here, and her loved ones and the other guests that were there were left to wonder what could have happened to her. So Kirsty, it's really sad. She was found laying motionless. She was face down in her room. It was apparent that she had been attacked viciously and lost her life. Kirsty had been strangled to death with a piece of fabric that was still around her neck. Horrible. She was also R-worded. This situation was really distressing for everyone. Her family had to find out that she was no longer with them. That would have been horrific. Also, when the police arrived, They found that a bunch of people had already entered Kirsty's room, including a Thai television camera crew. Like, are they freaking kidding me? Are they serious? While Kirsty's body is in there. So apparently everyone in the community was talking about this dead girl who was a foreigner who was found in her room. And guess what? Curious community members and journalists showed up at this guest house, and they just let themselves into her room while she was laying there, deceased. She was also partially dressed. The journalists were all over the place trying to get the best shots of her, the scene. It's just so messed up. It's so messed up. I don't understand why a film crew would think that it was okay to go into a murder scene. It's so morally wrong, and she's still there. Like, horrible. Plus, the crime scene has been significantly compromised due to the repeated entry and exit of just so many people. People were in and out of the room like nothing. It's like there was a dead woman in there. And, unfortunately, this led to the contamination of vital evidence, which had severe implications in this investigation. The disturbance of forensic evidence, such as fingerprints, DNA samples, and other physical traces of the crime, made it more challenging to actually identify and prosecute any suspects. The lack of proper measures to secure the crime scene resulted in the loss of valuable information that could have been used to get the person who killed Kirsty. I just don't understand why they keep going in and out of the room. So after these despicable individuals who went into the room published photos, so they published photos of Kirsty's body in newspapers while she was like that. She lay there, partially naked, R-worded and broken, while they just snapped pictures. It really angers me. As the investigation into the tragic death of Kirsty unfolded, the details that surrounded the event became increasingly muddled and perplexing, leaving authorities grappling with unanswered questions. As more information came to light, the circumstances of her demise grew more suspicious, raising flags and prompting further scrutiny. Who did this to her? Also, during the investigation of Kirsty's death, detectives uncovered a significant development. So the maid, the one who had claimed to have discovered Kirsty's body at around 4 p.m, she later confessed that she actually lied. She revealed that she had been coerced into giving a false statement. But why? That's my question. Why? This revelation enabled the authorities to scrutinize the circumstances surrounding Kirsty's death more closely. Following this new development, the police suspected the hotel manager, Sarin, as the individual who discovered her body about 5 hours before it was officially reported. So that is so wrong. He found this body and then 5 hours went by and then he reported it? Okay. It's deeply concerning that there was such a massive delay in reporting Kirsty's death. It's hard to understand why it was kept quiet for so long. Like, why wouldn't you call out for help? You know, like, why wouldn't they get the police? It looks really bad for the manager, that's for damn sure. It's just really disturbing to learn that there was such a massive delay in reporting her death. That makes you think, like, what were they trying to cover up? It's just really hard to comprehend. Like, why was this kept so quiet for 5 hours? Was it the manager? So I'm a major skeptic, and immediately I am thinking it's the manager who killed her. But perhaps he was just maybe overwhelmed by the situation and didn't know how to react, or maybe he was afraid of the consequences of reporting it. I'm not from Thailand, so I don't know how it works over there, but I feel like in New Zealand, if you find a dead body, you're going to call the cops straight away. You're not just going to let it sit there for 5 hours. No. It's also possible that there was a much more sinister motive behind the delay. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Like, the moral thing to do would be to call the police. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. But regardless of the reason, I can only imagine how difficult this must have been for Kirsty's loved ones to find out that she had passed away in such a vicious way. And then to see those pictures of her body, she was half naked. It's horrible. It's really, really sad. It's truly heartbreaking that Kirsty had to go through such a tragic and inhumane death. Eventually, her body was taken away and it was examined. The coroner actually found semen on Kirsty's body that could potentially lead to the identification of her attacker. So that's great news, right? Like, boom, you got DNA. Awesome. Fantastic. But it's only good if the perpetrator is in the system, right? Yeah. So the police collected this DNA evidence and they sent it for further testing. Fingers crossed, but no. This evidence, it didn't match anyone. The evidence, no, it's not happening. So, no significant breakthrough there, but they do have DNA. So they can put that away and maybe, somebody it will belong to somebody. Of course it belongs to somebody. So, despite the Thai police's initial confidence in identifying 8 prime suspects for Kirsty's murder, their investigation did hit a roadblock. They, had those people from this guest house, so they're like, oh yeah, it's one of you. Because when they ran DNA tests on each of the suspects, none of them matched the DNA evidence found on Kirsty's body. So they checked everybody in this guest house and it didn't come back to any of them. So there goes my theory of the manager and that guy that she hung out with that night before. Also, the Thai police were unwavering in their conviction that the perpetrator of this heinous crime could not have been a Thai national. They could not agree that it was one of their own. They based this assumption on their assessment that the act was far too brutal and inhumane for any person from Thailand to be capable of committing such an atrocity. Are they joking? Are they kidding? However, this assumption was challenged by a lot of people who felt that the police were being ignorant and that such a crime could be committed by anyone, regardless of their nationality. So Thai police then turned their attention to Andrew Gill, the owner of the guest house. So they honed in on him, even though the DNA didn't match him. Because just 2 days after Kirsty was actually killed, Andrew, who had been living in Thailand for 12 years, he just kind of disappeared, drawing the attention to himself. It's like, where'd he go? Subsequently, the authorities located him. He was in a bar and they took him into custody. Although, like I said, the DNA testing was not a match for Andrew, he was still arrested and put into the cells. Like, the DNA was not his. So Andrew attempted to justify his disappearance following Kirsty's death by asserting that he did not want the authorities to discover that his visa had actually expired. Yeah, so his visa expired 2 years earlier and he didn't want to get in trouble. But yeah, he was fined. He was fined £33, which is 2,000 baht, for his visa's expiration. He was deported. Despite this, the authorities remained unyielding in their determination to prosecute him. It's like, guys, it's not his DNA. Are they stupid? So according to the police, Andrew Gill was taken into custody after the authorities gathered some evidence, and apparently witness statements. The police department expressed confidence in their investigation and stated that they were certain they were heading in the right direction, despite the DNA evidence not matching Andrew. Are they freaking kidding me? Like, come on. Andrew had made a life-changing decision by selling his house, and he purchased this hostel. He quickly became a really popular figure in the area. Like, everyone liked him. He was super friendly. People just really got along with him. But despite his popularity, his life took a dark turn when he was arrested for Kirsty's death. Yeah, things just kind of spiraled downhill for him. Andrew's friends, they were all gathered around him and they showed him a whole lot of support while he was in the cells. They were bringing him food and water, and so he's in the police cells and they're just trying to look after him. People in the area, they didn't believe that he was actually responsible. It was just the cops. The investigation into Andrew, it did hit a dead end because the police, they have no evidence. The DNA wasn't his. Like, the semen was not his. So several witnesses confirmed that Andrew was actually drinking at a local bar on the night that Kirsty was killed. And like I said, the DNA science, it did not match him. So as a result, Andrew was released. So he got to leave 2 months later, and the mystery of Kirsty's murder remained unsolved. So they kept him for 2 months. 2 months, even though it did not match him. It's horrible. The question of who committed the crime continued to linger, leaving the community in shock and sorrow. Next, the police started to think a guy called Abraham Narong, who was a local Burmese tour guide, was a person of interest. So Abraham had reportedly led Kirsty and a group of 8. So they're all backpackers, and he led them on a 3-day hill walking excursion in the beautiful southwestern region of Chiang Mai in Thailand. He was one of the last people to have seen Kirsty before she died. So according to news reports, Abraham was taken into police custody and he was there for several days. Yeah, they just held them there. And he was allegedly subjected to physical violence and he was coerced into a confession. So during the course of his interrogation, the police asked him to provide a semen sample, but apparently he actually declined. I don't understand why he declined it. I would have just given it, right? If you're not guilty, then you just give it. So subsequently, Abraham made allegations to media that he had been subjected to SA by the interrogators in an attempt to coerce him into providing the sample. Okay, that's horrible. The police have not yet publicly released any evidence or information that would link Abraham to the crime, and his family and friends have denied that he took any part in it. See, I'm suspicious. I'm like, why is he not just gonna hand his DNA over? It's like, just give it. That clears you. But I guess not with Andrew. Anyway, the case has sent shockwaves across the backpacking community in Thailand and has raised concerns about the safety of solo travelers, especially women. Yeah, there's quite a lot. There's a lot of stories about solo female travelers. They end up dying. Also, the pressure was on the police to solve Kirsty's case, and some speculate that the police actually considered using Abraham as a scapegoat. So to achieve this, they allegedly intended to tamper with Kirsty's remains by contaminating it with Abraham's DNA. This would have linked him to her death and allowed the police to close the case. So that kind of makes sense why he doesn't want to give the DNA. Maybe he thought they might do that. Maybe they've been known to do that kind of thing. So although such tactics have been used in the past by police all over the world, it is unclear if this is what the Thai police were going to do. Nonetheless, if true, this would be a gross injustice. Like, honestly. The police should not resort to such unethical tactics to solve cases. It's just unfair to everyone. Like, just do your job. It was only due to the protests that was staged by other tour guides on the street and the international media coverage that the authorities were forced to release Abraham, and they kind of just dropped him off on a random street and just like abandoned him there. So it's also worth mentioning that the police did issue a formal apology to Abraham for mistreatment. So they admitted that they treated him like crap. This apology was made at a later time, presumably after an internal review of the situation. So I haven't actually looked too much into Abraham because there wasn't much, but however, despite the apology, the investigation into the tragic death of Kirsty seemed to lose momentum after that point. So after they thought Abraham did it. Specifically, it appears that there was a lack of sustained effort in identifying and bringing to justice the perpetrator responsible for her death. Kirsty's death in Thailand in the year 2000 was such a tragic loss. She was such a light to her family, and it deeply impacted them, her family and her friends. Her body was returned to her home, and she had her funeral service, and yeah, it's just horrible. Since then, her loved ones have been working hard to find and bring her killer to justice, but unfortunately, despite their efforts, no one has been found guilty, even till today. This is like 24 years ago now. This has been a painful and frustrating experience for everyone involved. Kirsty's family and friends have been left to grapple with the unbearable sense of loss, while the community back in Thailand, where Kirsty had died, has been left with a deep sense of unease. Why is it so hard for them to catch the person who did this? They have DNA. A few years after Kirsty died, Sue, her mum, she embarked on a journey to Thailand with Kirsty's brother Gareth to visit the place where Kirsty lost her life. This trip was emotionally challenging for Sue, who was still struggling to come to terms with the loss of her beloved daughter. Nevertheless, Sue's optimistic spirit kept her going and gave her the strength to make this trip. Despite the pain, Sue was determined to find some sort of closure and gain a better understanding of the circumstances surrounding her daughter's passing. She wanted to go there and see it for herself. Then, in 2006, Tony Blair, who was actually the Prime Minister of England at the time, used his influence to press the Prime Minister of Thailand. He urged this Prime Minister of Thailand to go and, harass his authorities to conduct a more thorough investigation into Kirsty's case. The case had been dormant, and people back in the UK were just really frustrated and upset that her case wasn't being taken seriously. Little progress had been made, like no progress actually. Oh, they found the DNA, that's great, but what are they doing with it? Tony Blair's appeal proved to be a turning point, and Thai authorities were forced to take a closer look at the case. And their efforts led to a breakthrough. That's right. DNA tests were conducted, and the results conclusively proved that the perpetrator was actually a Thai national. Remember they said a Thai person would never do it? This revelation was a crucial development in the case, and it helped establish a sense of accountability, which had been absent up until then. This horrible incident highlights the critical role that internal cooperation can play in solving complex criminal cases. It also underscores the importance of political leaders using their influence to bring about positive change. So good job, Tony Blair. The intervention of Tony Blair in this case not only helped push this case, but also strengthened the ties between the UK and Thailand. Then, 11 years after Kirsty was killed, the Welsh police had become involved, and they were investigating her case, and they discovered a YouTube video. Yeah, a YouTube video. It was titled "Murder of Welsh Tourist Covered Up by the Tourist Police." It's a mouthful. This video was uploaded by an Australian man who provided evidence of a potential suspect in Kirsty's death. So he urged the Thai police to investigate a Thai professor from Chiang Mai. He was a professor at the university over there who was seen around the guest house during the time that Kirsty was killed. The suspect was identified as the younger brother of the inspector of the tourist police. There you go. It's a cover-up. The video raises concerns about the Thai police's handling of the case, suggesting that they were trying to cover it up. The guy who posted the video believes that the suspect had influential connections within the Thai police department, which was hindering the investigation. It does sound highly probable, right? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. So the Welsh police shared this information with the Thai police, and they requested that they investigate this professor. Look into it, get the DNA, see if it's a match. How easy is that, right? Get his DNA, match it to the DNA that was found on Kirsty. Is it him or isn't it him? Sounds simple, but they make it so difficult. Also, the Thai police, they never responded. Yeah, they never responded, so we don't know what happened. The Australian citizen's allegations, coupled with the apparent lack of interest from the Thai police, it actually raised a lot of concerns about the integrity of the Thai justice system. Then, the year 2012 saw the convening of a second meeting between Welsh detectives and Thai officers who came together to review the forensic evidence. So the Welsh detectives actually pushed for this, along with Kirsty's family. They were pushing. So Kirsty's mum accompanied these officers on their trip to Thailand to make an impassioned plea for any information that could aid in the investigation. So the devastating death of Kirsty had left her loved ones and the UK authorities with a deep sense of sorrow. They just wanted the perpetrator to be caught. He left his DNA on her. Come on. And despite their best efforts, justice still has not been served for Kirsty. It is a matter of great concern that the perpetrator of this crime is yet to be identified. He's still out there. And the efforts and determination of the Welsh detectives is actually commendable. I just wish the Thai officers cared as much. It is also important to note that a reward of £10,000 was offered to anyone who could provide valuable information that could lead to an arrest in this case. So £10,000, that's about $20,000 here in New Zealand. The reward was advertised through various channels, including social media, news outlets, and posters in public places. Despite the widespread knowledge of this reward, no new leads or suspects have been identified. So someone's protecting someone, or a bunch of people are protecting someone. The authorities hoped that by offering a substantial reward, they could encourage witnesses or individuals with information to come forward and provide valuable leads that could aid in this investigation. Unfortunately, despite the substantial reward and widespread advertising, the investigation remained at a standstill. It's almost like the Thai officials were not doing anything, like not even dragging their feet, just not doing anything. Thai law's 20-year limit on investigating cases means the country's police will now be unable to arrest anyone for Kirsty's murder, even if new information does come to light. Yeah, statute of limitations. After 2 decades of working tirelessly for justice, Kirsty's mum Sue has spoken out against the law and revealed her anguish at the thought that her daughter's killer may never be put behind bars. Every day she's in her family's thoughts, and they miss Kirsty so much. So sad. Damn statute of limitations, so no one's ever gonna be charged. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, please don't forget to hit the like button, turn on the notifications bell, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. It's a little bit more of a shorter one today. That's mainly due to the fact that I had to go to the dentist and I had 3 teeth worked on, so I'm a little bit sore. If my voice sounds funny, it's because my mouth is so sore and swollen. Yeah. I am not a happy chappy. I need to go have my pain medication. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and it is so sad about the statute of limitations. Are you freaking kidding me? Like 20 years. So someone killed Kirsty and 20 years went by, and that's when in Thailand the statute of limitations runs out. So even if they do match this DNA, the person who killed her will never go to jail. Nothing will happen. Unless like another country got involved, like the UK, but I don't think they can do anything because he's not a UK native, and yeah, it's Thai soil, so it just sucks. What do you guys think about this statute of limitations? Like, tell me, how do you feel about it? I hate it, honestly. Like here in New Zealand, I don't think we have it. Do we? No. I think like if you commit a crime, it's just always like someone can always get in trouble for it. I don't think we have statute of limitations. No, I don't think we do. I know that it's like some countries do it because, you know, the evidence runs out or whatever. Runs out. There's like, sorry, my mouth is sore, so I'm like trying to talk. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, what are your guys' views on statute of limitations? Let me know. And that is me. My nose is apparently blocked as well. I don't know how that happened. Am I getting sick? I hope not. I'm going to go take my medication. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for being with me, being here with me. Maybe I don't need any more pain medications. Anyway, that's me. I'm out. Have a great day. Please remember to support my channel by liking, subscribing, hitting notification bells. Super thanks. And what's the other one? Memberships. Thanks, guys.